Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester. And I'm sure you are too because you are consuming content like this. And I can feel it. I can feel when there's an audience sitting there that is understanding what I'm putting out, right? That's understanding what's flowing through me. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we are choosing to live. What I am discussing in this video is what do you fear most about your life, and are your actions leading you towards it or away from it? So when I say fear, I'm going to use that very lightly because I don't believe in operating strictly in fear, but fear is a very valid existence. It's a very valid feeling, emotion, or whatever. And we'd be denying ourselves if we acted like it didn't exist just to be woo-woo, you know? But if you find yourself fearing anything specific about your life, so for me, I can think back a long time ago. I used to really fear this idea of being mediocre. I don't know where I got it from. I don't know why that wasn't so important to me. But one of my biggest fears in life was always when I was like, early 20s, late teens, and I was having these discussions with my brother, and we would always have these philosophical, rant things. It was always, I just didn't want to be mediocre. I didn't just want to just blend into what was averagely happening and then live a life like that and then die, right? Well, first of all, maybe it was because I was already non-mediocre just based on my upbringing and the type of parents that I had and the religion that I was in and just the school that I was, being in school and always standing out in some kind of way. Even where I grew up, my name, it was always just, I would see the teacher get to the point where they couldn't pronounce something because it wasn't, Marie or Keisha or Stephanie or, Brenda. It wasn't these little names. And I was like, oh, I know they're my name. And I'm like, me? So just some of those things made me pull out of any average existence, but it was deeper. I wanted to have some type of meaningful experience. I wanted to create something that expanded far beyond the average reach. I wanted to affect people in a way that they could say they learned something from my existence, or they were challenged by my existence in a way, and I was a mirror to their existence, and they were able to grow and expand and be more. And I can honestly say that's been most of my experiences. The only thing about that choice and making that type of life choice is that you don't always get the sweet spot of relationships. Sometimes you're always a teacher, and being always a teacher means that you don't always get the cuddly, loving, and supportive and comfortable types of relationships with people. But it is not a bad thing necessarily, but it's definitely not something that's what you would call on the mediocre side, right? When I think about things that I want to accomplish or do, or things that I have done and accomplished over time, my immediate thing was always today. Like today, right now, what is it you don't want for your life? So say if it's something I pick like, I want to have good health. I want to have a good, healthy life. I want to be, because some of the women I have been with on different retreats and I'm in different groups, they're significantly older than me. When I say significant, like, 15, 20 years, right? That's not too significant. I mean, but whatever significant means to some people, it's not 5 years or whatever. And someone asked me, it's just like, hey, how do you blend with a group like that? Well, I never really saw age in a way. So I don't even think about that until somebody brings it up in the group. I just see women that I can identify with on some level, right? And sometimes thinking about that, I see where they're still very healthy. We did hiking when we were on retreat and everything. And there's so many things that we did physically that a lot of people getting up to those ages can't necessarily handle or do. And so that's something that I've always focused on, is being healthy, being fit, and then like taking care of my body. So like on a regular basis, like on a daily basis, if I'm writing in my journal and I'm scribbling things down, I'm always like, how was your day today? Is it leading towards having good health, or what you did today was leading towards the road of having bad health? And then like, that's the way that I sort of organize where do I want my life trajectory to go in specific areas, right? And I can even say the same thing with, say, friendships or connections. And I'll think about, what did you do today? How did you interact with others? Is it leading towards having deeper connections with others, or is it leading away from having deeper connections and creating long-term friendships with others, right? So that's like if I'm in a WhatsApp group and they're talking about something interesting and I want to say something, but I just decide to tap out. Like, that behavior to me is saying that I don't want to create long-term, deeper connections, that I just want to be on the sideline of relationship and friendships, right? So I look at my behavior and I always think, okay, I should put more effort there. I should do that. Because whatever we're doing in any of those particular areas, it's always creating a trajectory in our lives for what we want to experience and how we want it to play out. I think about the same thing when it comes to finances and stuff. I think like, okay, how am I organizing money? Money is a little bit different one for me, because I learned a long time ago that a certain level of penny pinching will never get you to where you want to be. So when I'm just living life and doing average things, I don't beat myself up because I got to go to the grocery store and buy this, or I got to fill up my tank. Like, I don't think about those kind of things. And I also don't spend time bemoaning that they have to be done. I spend time in gratitude that it's easy to do and that I don't have to think about it, right? So somebody else's trajectory may be to spend less money. Mine has never really been that way. But also, I'm not truly a big spender. I'm a daily basis kind of how I live. I may have to go pick up this or do that or do this. The children need that. So I've always let myself be free there because I don't like to feel financial restraint when it comes to like my daily life. Now, when it comes to like big purchases, what we call big, that's not big to the universe, right? I do kind of sit on it for a second, but I know sometime when I'm going to pull the trigger on things. I know when I'm going to take a step when it comes to things like that. But my thought process in that area is always, how am I feeling when I'm spending this money? How am I being grateful? Am I, sharing abundance with other people? Am I circulating money into the universe? And like, is this how you want to be in the future? Like, is this the future trajectory of who you are? Like, is this what you see? And so that's what I spend my time focused on in that area. I want to be this person that's always out and about. And as far as my life has been going, if I look at the last 3-4 years, or if not more, I've been exactly where I wanted to be in the financial abundance and how I feel about it, right? Of course, we always want to bring in more financial stability. We want to bring in more abundance, right? We want to bring in more money, because why not, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But if I think about how I've been operating on a daily basis, to me, that is the trajectory where I want to continue to be. I want to be free with being able to tip people, free with being able to go get coffee every day. If I want to go get coffee every day, free with having lunch with my daughters without thinking about it, free with like, you want to go to the movies and not thinking about it. Like, those sort of things are what I'd like to continue to do. So think about what's your trajectory there and how you want to continue to experience life, right? And it's the same thing when it comes to just like my overall circumstance, when it comes to like career wise, and like, how do I want to spend my time? Every area of my life. How do I want a vacation? How do I want to travel? And what do I want that to look like? I think about in those moments today, am I holding back in that area, or am I giving towards that area? Am I experiencing it today in a way that trajectory is going to lead to the ultimate goals that I have in those places and environments? So I can honestly say this with things like writing books and having those goals on a regular basis and doing like those types of projects. Like, I think about, is what I did today leading me to the completion of that particular project? And if all I did that day was sort of, I was going to say another word, but it's kind of like a rough word. Pushed off, I'll say pushed, pushed off the responsibility of, writing the 500 words, pushed away the responsibility of researching an area of the book that I need to complete, pushed off the responsibility of advertising the book in different areas of social media and going online and sending emails. If I kind of like forfeited that opportunity that day, then it's like I have to think to myself, Do you really want this area to grow? Do you really want it to expand? Because today it did not look like that's what you wanted to do. And this is not saying that you should not have some days to where you're just not doing everything, where you're just not on top of everything, because that's perfectly okay. But know that at the end of the day, the actions that you're taking on a daily basis are either getting you closer to the things that you want to experience or further away from those things you want to experience, right? And so a lot of people talk about this in relationships and stuff. And I can honestly say, being in relationships and long-term relationships, and I think about that on a regular basis. When in them, my thought process is this behavior that I'm doing going to make this relationship, going to give it longevity, or is it going to be something that's going to become a problem over and over again? And how do I want to interact with this particular behavior that I have, and how it interacts with whether or not this relationship flourishes? So I've always said this before, I'm very introverted. I like to spend a lot of time alone, but in some connections that I've had, that's also been an issue. So I was always thinking, like, how much of myself am I willing to put forward and to give away without losing large aspects of who I am, without feeling like I'm exhausted or I need to recharge and maybe I'm with someone who doesn't understand. So I think about that in long term. It's like, is this leading me further, closer to where I want to be in this relationship, or is it leading me further away from it? And then you have to make decisions based on whether or not those things are going to be for you, based on who you are and your personality and what you're willing to change or what you're willing to expand. And I think every area is like that. Life is a lot more methodical than sometimes we let it be. We put a lot of mystery in areas where there's not a need for like a mystery. Sometimes it's just literally trajectory. And it's like, do I want a healthy and fit body? What am I doing today to get there? The more days that you have that goes towards a healthy and fit body, your trajectory will be a healthy and fit body. There's no getting around that, right? And, sometimes people want to do things for a little while and then jump out of it, but that's not a trajectory. That's sort of a hot and cold. So like you're doing a thing for a while and then you drop out of it, it's going to shift the trajectory into another direction. It's not going to keep on going towards the healthy, fit body, right? So if you're doing the things on a daily basis, you're going for the regular walks, you're drinking the water, you're eating a healthy food, and that's not like, badgering yourself with healthy food. There's always some things, there's wiggle room, right? If you're doing those things on a regular basis, doing the meditation, getting good sleep, you're going to go towards a healthy trajectory. But if you're on a regular basis, eating the garbage food, not finding reasons not to exercise, staying up late, eating while you're in bed, all these kind of little things that we know are not necessarily good for us, not finding opportunities to use our bodies, then that trajectory is going to go in another direction. So what do you fear most for your life? When I say fear, it's like, what do you not want for your life? And then are your actions leading towards those things or away from it, right? And I think that's why I've always done so much overachieving stuff. And at this point, it's just things that I like to do. So I don't even call it overachieving for me. But because I was always hopped up on this, don't be mediocre. But at the end of the day, you're going to be mediocre to somebody and you're going to be greatness to somebody else. So you just have to enjoy and love who you are and what you're bringing to the table and what you're experiencing in this life, right? Hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.